Okay, I'm Ann Seligson, and I'm the Fair Housing Director. And I must admit, our executive director kept saying, why did they call? I'm sure it's court-ordered. Who would call for this training without it being court-ordered, especially when they're not in Westchester? So we're really very pleased that you've called before your court order. So we are here to educate and to learn from you. One of the things that we really feel strongly about is that we don't know your market. And wherever we go, whether we go to a small office in northern Westchester or a larger office in Mount Vernon, we're hearing different kinds of problems. I mean, they're basically the same, but there are different things. So you're going to tell us some of the things that landlords are saying to you, and we're going to talk about what you should be saying back to the landlords so that we can really help you to deal with every day. And that's what we're here, to work on the situations you meet every day. We're not here to talk about some abstruse law that has nothing to do with you. This is down to earth. We're a fair housing agency. We've been in operation for over 40 years, so we're not fly-by-night. We've been around a long time. We operate in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties, but we can go anywhere where people want to learn the law, because there are slight differences in the law, but they're basically the same. There's federal fair housing law, there's state fair housing law, there's New York City fair housing law, and we're ready to talk about all three. And all three have major fines, have major punitive damages, and that's what we want to avoid. We are concerned. Fair housing is the other reason you really want to know fair housing and understand fair housing is that errors and omissions insurance doesn't cover fair housing discrimination. So if you discriminate, you're on your own. It's not something your insurance company will take care of next week for you. So that's the other reason for being really up to date on what's protected and what's not and things you should say. So our agency covers all of Westchester in all kinds of areas, and we put a brochure in the folder that we gave you so that if you want to know a little more about Westchester residential opportunity, you'll look at the brochure. And we have included in the brochure all kinds of fair housing information so that when we leave, you still have a place to continue to learn. And this is why we're here, just to do a training and to hopefully get you all interested in fair housing, because it's your job. It's what you need to care about. So, Andrea will begin with the first quiz of the day.
Well, before I get to that, I just want to again say how happy we are that you've invited us to come here, and we could talk about this for a long time because we feel passionate about it. You know, we're here to help you make sure that you avoid liability, but we also believe strongly in what the fair housing laws are all about. It's the right thing. When people learn to live together, they learn that the similarities among people are much greater than their differences. And that's the premise behind the fair housing laws. I also want to say, for purposes of fair housing, discrimination, the definition of discrimination, is construed very broadly. Okay? You can discriminate with true intent to discriminate, but you can also discriminate with good intentions. You can discriminate unintentionally. Ignorance of the law is not a defense. And you can discriminate when you're just trying to be helpful. And we often say, when it comes to being a real estate professional, less is more. Because in trying to be helpful, sometimes you may give too much information. You can discriminate when you make assumptions, when you presume to know what's best for your clients, when you substitute your own judgment and determine where you think it would be best for someone to live, rather than letting your clients make that determination. Okay, so this is very important because we know, I think we can pretty confidently say that none of you would intend to discriminate, but you can discriminate unintentionally, and we want to make sure that you think about these things in your relationships with your clients, and it becomes second nature to you. All right, so I'm going to start with the first quiz. I want to ask you some questions to see if you are qualified to be real estate professionals, okay? Okay. All right, very important. By a show of hands, how many of you are married? How many of you are separated? How many of you have children under the age of 18?
The problem is you can't ask these questions.
How many of you are cohabiting? Well, I'm not done with my test. You know what cohabiting means? Living in sin. Anyone? No? Okay. How many of you were born in another country? How many of you have a disability? Any of you maybe take medication for anxiety or depression? How many of you are African American? Italian? Jewish? Hispanic? You're everything. White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. How many of you are offended by these questions? And how many of you are wondering what these questions have to do with your fitness, your qualifications to be a real estate professional? And if I asked you what they have to do, what would you say? Nothing. Exactly. And that's the premise behind the fair housing laws, that certain characteristics about people have nothing whatsoever to do with their qualifications, their fitness to purchase or rent real estate. Okay, what is important?
I heard it over there that they can pay the rent.
Exactly. What's the only color that matters?
Green.
Exactly. And too often, people forget that this is a financial transaction. This is a business arrangement. It doesn't matter what a person's background or color or religion is. And so you need to always be aware. And you need to educate the public as well. We can't get to all of the landlords, to the co-op boards, to the public at large. You are sort of at the vanguard of the housing market. So we need you to constantly be educating the public and keep the focus where it belongs, on a person's financial fitness, okay? Their ability to meet their financial responsibilities, okay? Now we are, yes?
What kind of repercussions like exist for landlords who discriminate?
Same repercussions that exist for you.
So how would, like, what would be the best way to approach a situation when a landlord asks you to discriminate in order to give you the business?
Well, let me throw that question back first to you and see what you have to say. What do you do in a situation where you want to do business with a landlord and the landlord tells you that he only wants a certain type of person, that he wants you to bring him the right person, okay? But you don't believe in discrimination, and this is a business for you. You know, this is your livelihood. You want to make a deal. You want to do business. What do you do when your landlord says that to you? I don't want to rent to gays, to African Americans, to single parents. What do you say? You say goodbye. Because I know that this is a business for you, but it's potentially a lot more expensive to you and to your company to accept the discriminatory listing than it is to walk away. What you need to do to answer your question is you must distance yourself from the discrimination. It is not enough just to say, to go along with it, even if you're not going to discriminate. It's not enough to say nothing. It's important for you to be proactive, to say to the landlord, I'm sorry, you know,